My name's Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Welcome to update number 2 on the Nova class Starship project. In the last update, we looked at all of the parts laid out for this kit, and I talked about a bit of a problem that I ran into with the kit itself. The bottom half of the ship was really badly warped, and when I tried to reshape it under hot water, it snapped, which meant that part was not going to be usable in making the kit. So I absolutely had to make a new part. I glued it back together, took a mold of it, and made a cast of it in clear resin. And since I was doing that, I decided to do that with the rest of the kit. So I was dealing with a brand new fresh resin casted kit that was in the same type of resin, no issues. So I've got it all done. It's laid out of here. I'm now going to be moving away from the casting and molding process to the refinement process. Now, the resin kit has a lot of things that need to be dealt with. First of all, and the first thing I'm going to be doing is dealing with all the flash that's part of the kit right now. You can see this is the bottom part of the ship. It's the one that I had to recreate because of how warped the original was. You can see that there is a ton of flash on this that I need to clean up, and there's flash on all the parts. It's just what's going to happen. So my first step is going to be cleaning up all of the flash and dealing with all of those seam lines from the casting process. I've got a lot of work to do on all of the parts. Then the next step of the refinement stage is going to be a little bit tricky to figure out, and this is what I'm thinking so far. Step 1, I'm going to coat all of the parts with the adhesion promoter so that when I'm working with the paint later on, I'm not going to have any paint lifting with masking and that type of thing. Then I'm going to lay down the clear colors I need to put on the kit. That's the blue for the warp chiller grills, the red for the Bizarre collectors, and for the impulse drive, and anything else that needs to be have a shot of clear paint on it. Then once that's fully cured, I'm going to mask it all off. I'm going to mask my windows and any other parts I want to have light shine through. Then I'm going to go through my light blocking and priming stages. The reason I want to do that is so that then once the outer portion of the ship has been primed in gray, I should be able to go through and find all of the little imperfections that are going to be part of this kit, and there will be lots of imperfections. I was looking at the original kit. It's really nicely cast except for that bottom part, but there are a lot of imperfections. Those imperfections will have translated into this kit, plus any casting issues that I put into the kit are also going to be there. So there's likely going to be quite a lengthy process of refinement on this project. So that is my goal this update, to get the flash cleaned up, the mold seam lines dealt with, get the clear, transparent color down on the kit, get it primed, and start working on refining all those little pits, nicks, all that kind of stuff. So let's get right at it. The flash has been cleaned off, the top section, the bottom section, and the pylons, and those pieces have had adhesion promoter put on them, but I ran into a bit of a problem with the Warp Nacelles. They are in really bad shape. Now, the original parts that came with the kit are not in good shape to start with. They are not the greatest casting as far as how cleanly it's been done, and that's really made the recast of it a lot more difficult. So I'm currently in the process of remolding those parts, and I've got one of the brand new molds right here. This is a cylindrical mold. I used some plastic cylinder material to pour the mold, and I did a quick test pour on the cast. Turned out much better as far as how clean the cast is, but I didn't get the resin in there properly. So I've got another shot of resin in here right now, and in a little bit I'll pull that, see how it turns out. But I want to show you how I'm doing this particular mold. So this is the setup I've got for recasting the nacelles. Now I've got one mold here which is for the upper half of the nacelle. It's the same both sides, so I only need to make one mold and I'll just cast it twice. These are the two bottom pieces, and they are different port and starboard. They've each got the connection point on the opposite side, obviously because the pylon will attach them on different sides. So basically what I've got going on here is I've attached two laminated pieces of styrene strips to the best end of the nacelle, meaning the end that doesn't have as much detail. There's thrusters on the if I'll just pan up here quickly for you. Can you see the detail in this? There are thrusters. Actually, they're on the opposite side, so you can't see them. But thrusters are molded into the piece there. So I don't want to obscure any of that detail. So basically, on the end that doesn't have detail, I've attached 2 layers of styrene that I've just laminated together, and I've attached them to the tip, which is going to create the pour point. And then I've hot melt glued these to a piece of plastic core, and then I've just taken that cylindrical material, basically just a plastic tube, and I've hot melt glued that to the plastic base as well. And this is going to create a fairly efficient mold box for this. What I did on the upper pylon was I poured in the silicone as one whole piece, and then I just cut the piece out. Not all the way down to the bottom so that the 2 halves of the mold were still attached. I'm going to show you the process of doing this as well.
So I'm just about to start the mold on the bottom half of the Warp Nacelles, and one of the reasons why I'm using the plastic tube is because I want to try to economize the silicone as much as possible. I'm actually running super low. I don't have much left. I have enough to do this, I think. So here's hoping that I've got enough. So first thing, obviously, is you want to protect yourself, and gloves are a necessity. For silicone, you want to use the vinyl gloves. They will not react with the silicone. You won't run into any kind of bad situations with that. With the silicone, I haven't been using a respirator. I don't think that you need to use one. However, I have been using a respirator when I have been mixing and pouring the resin, just to be on the safe side. Alright, I've got part B of the silicone here. It's a little hard to open. Big, huge container, but I've been doing a lot of molding, a lot of experimenting, so I'm pretty much near the bottom. So I'm just gonna mix up what is left here. And yeah, I am almost out. So I'm hoping I have enough to do. Now, I have pre-marked this cup. The first mark on it, which is right here, tells me where to pour the first layer, so the first like part B. Then part A will just top it up to this line, so I've pre-measured that out so I know what to put in it for, you know, a 1-to-1 ratio. I think I'm going to be scraping the bottom on part B. I've got more part A than I do part B for some reason. Alright, getting part A out. You might be thinking, well, aren't you supposed to put part A in first and then part B? It doesn't really matter. The only reason why I tend to do it this way is because it gives me the blue color in there that I can easily watch rise up when I pour the second half in. You can tell just by how quickly this poured that I've got much more part A than I do part B. Next step is to thoroughly mix the 2 parts together so that the color is nice and even. It'll go to that kind of nice greeny blue color, and right now there's all kinds of white streaks in the blue, and that'll even out nicely. And so once the color is even through, remembering always to scrape the sides and the bottom, once it is one solid color, then I know that it's ready to pour. These molds are too small for me to fill any of the gaps with extra pieces of silicone that are preset from previous molds. I just wouldn't have the space to get it in there. If I could, I would, because as I said, I'm really running out of part B there, and I need to conserve my silicone so I can get both of these fully molded. Scraping off the extra so I get every last little bit of silicone in here so that it'll go into the into the mold. Okay, now I'm just going to very slowly, here I'll do this with my left hand so that you can see, I'm just going to very slowly pour this in, not touching the piece. I want the silicone to rise up around it. I don't want it to coat it as it's falling in. I should have just about enough silicone to fill the first mold here. Well, didn't quite fill the whole mold, and I'm going to have to do more than one more batch, but hopefully I'll have enough to fill it all. Well, it's pretty much empty. I'm not going to have enough to do both the molds. Now I've got a couple options. I can either take the section with the indent and manually create an indent on the other side and fill that in, or I can do my best to get as clean of a cast as I can off of my old mold, or I can get some extra silicone just to finish off this one mold. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. Getting the little bit of silicone, which is going to be a different kind of silicone, isn't going to be the most cost-effective way of doing it, but it might be my best option. Now, because this wasn't marked, I just didn't know how much I had left in the container. I don't know how much I have to pour in of part A to match the volume of part B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measurement with a ruler, then I'm going to transfer that onto a water cup. I'm going to fill it up to that point, then I'm going to dump it into another cup, fill it again, dump that in, take the measurement off of where the water comes up there, and then transfer that mark to here. I'll show you. So I've got a couple cups that I reserved just for water use. So first step is I'm going to measure the height of the silicone in here. I want to make sure that it's level. So the level of the part B is 1.4 centimeters. So I'm going to mark 1.4 on here, 1.4. I just want to make sure that this looks about right. That does look about right, so that's 1.4. I'm just going to mark it on there, 1.4 centimeters. And I'm going to fill that to 1.4 centimeters with water. And let's see, pretty much spot on. Just going to transfer that into the other cup. And can I do that again? Pretty much spot on again. So that's 2 sets of that volume. So that's double the volume of that right now. So now I can mark where that is on the cup. The Sharpie doesn't like to draw on the plastic cups very well. So I've marked that. I'm going to get rid of the water. Cover the water immediately so that I don't accidentally spill it anywhere. Let's just put that sealed it down there. And I'm going to measure that line, which is now at 2.2 centimeters. So I'm going to mark 2.2 centimeters on this cup here. It's kind of hard to do that on a curved surface with a straight ruler. So anyway, that's 2.2 centimeters marked. Now I'm going to pour in the other part. And that way I will have equal volumes of both parts. There we go, part B is mixed in. We are just going to stir that up once again until it is a consistent color, and we're going to top this off. Now I'm going to have a lot of extra silicone left over that I can't use, but unfortunately there's just not going to be enough to do this mold. There we go, and I'll just pour the last top up in here. Now this is the last little bit of molding I need to do on this kit, and I'm not going to be starting another mold project for a while. So if I was starting a new project right away, I would order more of this silicone, and I'd just pour what I could into here and then top it up once I got more of the silicone, because the silicone, separate batches of the silicone will bond to itself, but I'm not going to be ordering any more silicone soon enough to be able to do that, because the silicone does have a shelf life, and I don't want it sitting around longer on the shelf than it needs to. So that's all topped up. That's going to sit here now until it sets, which will be, on paper it's 2 to 4 hours. It is a little colder here right now, so it will probably take the full 4 hours, and I will leave it overnight anyway before I look at cutting into it to de-mold the part.
So while the nacelles are being recast, what I thought I'd do is get a start on the windows. Now this is the upper section of the ship, and I've already applied the adhesion promoter, and I am masking off the windows. And essentially what I'm doing is I've just taken some measurements of the windows, and I am cutting blue painter's tape the right size. That strip of blue painter's tape there is only 2.5 millimeters thick, which is the height of the windows I've applied there. Now some of the windows on the edge of the ship are a bit taller, and then I've got the square windows to deal with. But this is just basically measuring, cutting, eyeballing, trial and error to see if I can get the masks for this. Now over here I've got the bottom section of the ship. This is actually a cast-off part that I'm not going to be using, but I've put adhesion promoter on it, and I'm going to put a coat of primer on top, and I'm going to do a test on the window scraping method. I'm not sure how that's going to work with the resin, but I'm going to give it a test. I'll then decide whether I want to continue going ahead with the masks or whether I want to simply do the paint and scrape method. Either way, I'm going to need to mask windows on the inside because I am keeping all of the light blocking paint on the inside of the ship. So you can see that I've got a lot of the masking on the top part of this ship done. There's just 2 windows that I've missed so far, and those are 2 windows here, 2 windows here, so 4 altogether, 2 on each side. I didn't actually notice those when I was doing the masking, and I saw those when I was looking at some reference materials. So you'll also see that there is some silicone in here. So on this part, this is the original kit part. This is my copy that I'm building. So I've got some silicone poured into the bridge and some silicone poured into the impulse engine here. The reason I've done that is and you can really tell by looking at the bridge section on the part that I'm building. So there's these indented ring all around the bridge dome. And looking at the reference information, those look like they are lit windows, or at least they are lit panels. So I need to mask those off so that I can have the light shine through there, but they are an odd shape. And I could try messing around getting the masks to try to sort of fit in, but I thought if I take a little mold, a little rubber mold of that section, I should be able to peel it off, and that'll give me the exact size of those sections. And if I put that mold that I've taken, put it on an ink pad and transfer that onto the tape, I should be able to get a perfect size match for the pieces that I need to be putting in there. And I thought, I can't get measurements inside the impulse engine because you can see it goes in there quite a way. Let me just see if I can just show you. Yeah, so you can see that there's quite a ledge there. So I thought, well, if I do that as well, I should be able to get a good, something I can do a stamp on and get the exact size of the mask I'm going to need in there. Now, I mixed up some silicone, and I basically scraped the bottom of the barrel trying to get some silicone out. And I put it in here, but then I realized I can't pour the silicone in this at the same time, so I used the second part. Now, there's another location that I might want to pour some silicone in, and it's this. Let me just get that in camera. This section here, the secondary deflector dish. So if I pour some silicone in there, I should be able to get the exact size of that so that I can mask that off as well. But I'm also going to see if I can I'll put the actual piece in there and see what it looks like, and I just might mask that off from the piece that I've got. So I'm going to pull this off, and I'm going to attempt to take a stamp off of it and create those masks. So I've pulled the mold, and I've got to say, it reminds me a little bit of the front section of a Klingon bird of prey, where the photon torpedo launcher is. But it came out very well. And this is the impulse section. Didn't quite come out as well, but it was also much more difficult to pull the silicone out of that area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of tape and lay that down. Now I have an ink pad here, and I'm trying this for the very first time on camera. So I'm going to press this down on the ink pad. I've picked up some ink on there, and I'm going to press this down on the tape. So just like a standard rubber stamp. There we go. And it's not quite as clear as I would like it to be, so let's try that again. It's not too bad. I think it just moved a little bit on me. All right, attempt number 2. Pick up some ink, and this time I'm just going to set it down, let it sit there for a moment, put a little bit of pressure right in the middle, lift it off, and again, I'm missing part of it. I've got some good parts there. Let me try this again where I'm not working around the camera, and I'll show you what I get. So the verdict is in. I got a great print off of the bridge section, but unfortunately the piece of silicone for the impulse section is just too flimsy to get an adequate print off of. This one right here might just give me what I need in order to make a mask, but again, it'll be a little bit more trial and error. But this, let's see if I zoom in here just a little bit so you get a better view. Yeah, it is quite good, and I'm going to get some really good accurate masking off of that. So I definitely think this was a good choice. Here's that mask complete, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I almost gave up on this attempt. I was just struggling with it quite a bit, but I figured out the best way of imprinting it onto the tape, and it turned out actually quite well. I'm really happy with the masking on that. All I have to do now is inverse the image and put it on the underside. I don't have to worry too much about the underside because it's not so important if it exactly matches. You can see that I've already got some of the work done underneath here, and the work I've done underneath here isn't exactly going to match, but it just needs to be fairly close. It's the good side that really counts as far as getting the masking pristine. So yeah, all I need to do is do the masking up here. Now, I'm not quite sure what to do about the dome up top. It is supposed to be kind of like a glowing green, almost, actually, you know, let me just grab this here, almost the same color as my molding agent. And yeah, I'm not quite sure how I would go about masking that piece. I might just need to paint it a close color that doesn't glow afterwards. I'm not quite sure if it is actually supposed to glow, but you know, if you know, let me know down in the comments, and maybe I'll try to figure something out. But I'm really happy with the way that mask has turned out. Just got to do the underside now. All the window masking is done, and I have masked the entire part except for the impulse engine here. I'm going to hit that with a shot of red transparent paint. Once it is cured, I'm going to create a mask to go in there, and then I will be ready to prime. So what I'm going to do is put my daughter to bed, then I'm going to hit it with the transparent paint, and then I'm going to go watch Doctor Who while it sets. All the masking has been removed and the red paint is down. Now it looks very, very rough here. That's one, because there's no light behind it, and it's also masked in behind, so no light is shining through. And two, I had to paint the entire housing inside, so I'm going to create a mask that's going to go over the impulse engine lens, and the rest of it's going to be primed and painted as per normal, and so it'll really clean up once that process is done. In a standard model kit, what you would do is you would paint the lens, and then you would insert the lens into that spot. up, but that's not an option here because the lens is actually just part of the kit. So it was really tricky getting the paint into that alcove, but I'm going to just then mask it off, and we'll get the rest of the housing around the impulse engine taken care of. So it's really messy right now. Looks not very good, but it's the rough stage, so nothing to worry about. It will clean up very nicely. It's a little hard to see again because it's hard for the light to get into that alcove, but I've got the lens for the impulse engine masked off. So I think I'm gonna double check, but I think all the masking for the top section is complete, which means it's ready to prime. I'm gonna start with the underside, doing the coat of black for light block, and then the coat for white to reflect the light inside, and then I will go over and do the outer section in the gray. Top half of the ship is masked and ready to be painted on the inside. You'll see that I've masked the bonding surface so that there's a clean surface to bond with the bottom half of the ship when I secure them together. So it has been fully masked. All the little masks are inside where they need to be. And then I've gone the extra mile on the outside, on the top side of it, and I've masked off for overspray, mostly just with paper to reduce how much tape I have to use. So I'm going to put down at least 2 layers of black and a layer of white, and I'll show you that when it's done. There we go. The paint is all on the inside, and I've gone ahead and removed the masks on the inside as well. And I've got to say, this looks kind of interesting on the outside with the black paint in there. It definitely gives it a different look, but we will be painting the outside. We'll be priming it with some gray primer so that I can go through and deal with all the little tiny imperfections. And actually, you can really tell where the little air bubbles and stuff are in this, even with the primer that's on here now. So the gray should really show those little spots where I'm gonna have to do some work. And that's as far as we're going to get on this Nova class project this week. I hope that you've enjoyed this update. It's coming along really good. I'm really trying to put the gas pedal down so that I can get this thing done in lots of time. I want to have enough time near the end of the competition to be able to do refinements on it. Also, I want about a week to try to get as good pictures as I can because, you know, a really good model can just not be shown off well by bad pictures. So I wanna make sure that I get some good pictures of it when it's done. So if you've enjoyed this update, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so yet, why not hit that subscribe button today? You'll make me very happy if you do. And why not check out the videos that are here? But for now, this has been Andrew. This is Canadian Starships. Have a great day, everyone.